Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
A reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text number 10, The Passing Away of Bhishma Deva. Krishnam cha tatpavavagya asinam jagad ishvaram ridishtam pujayam asa mayopata vigraham. Krishnam cha tatpavavagya asinam jagad ishvaram ridishtam pujayam asa maya yopata vigraham. Krishnam chatat prabhavagya asinam jagadishvaram vidishtam pujayam asa maya yopatita vigraham. Krishnam, unto Lord Krishna, cha, also, tat, of him, prabhavagya, the knower of the glories, Bhishma. Asinam, sitting. Jagadishvaram, the Lord of the universe. Ridishtam, situated in the heart. Pujayam, asa, worshipped. Maya, by internal potency. Upata, manifested. Vigraham, a form. And translation and purport by Savanga Ishwar Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Sri Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, yet he manifests his transcendental form by his internal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhishma Dev, and since Bhishma Dev knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly. Purport. The Lord's omnipotency is displayed by his simultaneous presence in every place. He is present always in his eternal abode Goloka Vrindavan, and still he is present in everyone's heart, and even within every invisible atom. When he manifests his eternal transcendental form in the material world, he does so by his internal potency. The external potency or the material energy has nothing to do with its eternal form. All these truths were known to Sri Bhishma Dev, who worshipped him accordingly. Amiganativananda Shadyanaya Shalakaya Chakshuranimitamyena Tasmai Sri Gurve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances to him. So Lord Sri Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, yet he manifests his transcendental form by his internal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhishma Dev, and since Bhishma Dev knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly. This is an amazing verse about Krishna being present in everybody's heart. From him come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So this has many connotations, that Krishna is in everyone's heart, and as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport here, that Krishna is in every atom. The setting, of course, is that Bhishma Dev is lying on this bed of arrows. He has not left this world yet, because, as was so nicely explained on Saturday, he wanted to see Dharma returned to its right situation. The Dharma is, of course, is the personification, or Yudhishthira is the personification of Dharma. So, in verses 1 to 4, I think it was, or 1 to 3, I can't remember exactly what. Yudhishthira, he got ready to come to meet Bhishma, who was lying on the arrows. So a whole big, all the armies came. They were all in their most royal regalia, and so they looked absolutely tremendous. I was thinking of when I was at this time last year. Actually, I was in Italy, and I saw all the paintings by Gyananjana in Villa Vrindavan. A lot of them are to do with Mahabharata and the Pandavas, and he absolutely got that spot on. He has these huge paintings, I think about 4 meters by 2 meters or even bigger, and the Pandavas are coming into Hastinapur, and all the crowds are all gathered, and these incredible souls are there, just coming into Hastinapur. So this is how they were coming to meet Bhishma. The battle was pretty much over, and Bhishma was still lying there. But Bhishma's whole point was that he wanted to see Dharma succeed, even though it appeared on some occasions that he was compromised himself. But Dharmam tu shakshak bhagavat pranitam. Dharma is coming directly from Krishna, and in the next verse after that, in the 6th canto, it explains how the Mahajans are the upholders of Dharma, and of course Bhishma is one of the Mahajans. And so everybody's coming here now to hear what Bhishma has to say. Krishna wants Bhishma to explain about Dharma to Dharma, personified as King Yudhishthira. And again, what we see here is the incredible culture of these people. Yudhishthira had been at war with his cousin brother, and also with his uncle, Dhritarashtra. So the amazing thing about that is that he still held him in his house afterwards, and he was very upset if there was any difficulty for Dhritarashtra. So, like, these people had been to war, they were trying to kill him, Dhritarashtra was trying to plot against him and everything. But still, because of the culture, he looked after him, he looked after his aunt, and so many of these things were there, which is kind of a little hard for us to understand these days, but still the Mahabharata is there for us to get, and as in these verses of Bhagavatam, for us to imbibe some of that culture as well. Again, it was explained in the class recently that how Bhishma put all his energy into these arrows, and he wanted Duryodhana was accusing him of not really going in this war. So Bhishma put all his energy in these arrows and said, tomorrow with all of these arrows I will kill all of the Pandavas. So this is Bhishma, he's the Mahajan, so what is he doing, you know? Krishna's in his heart, and yet he's thinking of doing this, and Krishna's coming to bring everybody to see Bhishma, but yet Bhishma Dev had this in mind. So he was acting on the basis of the super soul in his heart. Krishna was dictating to him from within what to do and how to act. And yet Krishna on the other side was protecting Arjuna, but Bhishma Dev also knew this. And so he had all these arrows filled with his potency, all his austerity, and yet Duryodhana was going and didn't even want to leave those arrows with Bhishma, so just in case anything would happen. But he took the arrows with him and was about to, you know, he brought them back to his place of residence. But then Arjuna came, because Krishna had reminded Arjuna to ask Duryodhana some boon, because Arjuna had saved him on a particular occasion. For a Kshatriya, this was disastrous. You know, he had been defeated by the enemy, I think it was the Gandharvas, but Arjuna came and rescued his cousin brother, and because he at that time the idea was, well, we're all one family, we should all stick together at this point. So he did. He saved him, but Duryodhana told him he would at some point he would give him the boon, whatever he wanted he would do. That was the only way he could repay. Of course, Krishna knew all of this, and he told Arjuna to ask him for those arrows. And before he asked him, Duryodhana had said to him, I will give any boon to you, even I will stop this war, I will give you back your land. Can you imagine? But Arjuna said, no, it's gone to this distance now, so it must, I must, as a Kshatriya, I must reclaim it because you've insulted me. So he asked him for the arrows. So there, Duryodhana knew these arrows are going, these were the ones which he was going to kill all the enemies tomorrow, but he had to give them to Arjuna because of his culture that was there. So it's quite amazing. So as devotees, one of the things which we must put into practice is we should forgive each other. This is very important. I'll get to why later on, but we should not bear grudges, because this very short life, we could bear a grudge the whole life, and at the next life what will happen, but in the face of eternity, what is this grudge? We have to see it like this. Although at the time we may feel like, oh yeah, this person did this to me, he should this, and so on. But it made me think of Yudhishthira. He didn't bear any grudges, and he forgave anybody who did anything to him. So this whole culture of forgiveness is very much a Vaishnava culture. You'll see it in the Vaishnava Isa, Jesus Christ. You know, love those who hate you, and you know, even in the verses of Saint Francis of Assisi, though those verses are very, very strongly put in there. This whole idea of forgiveness and hate the sin but not the sinner. But this is a culture which should be represented by the devotees of Krishna. That's something which we have to aspire to. We should not be involved in gossip or in Gramya Katha. It's hearing and chanting, not did you hear what she said, did you hear what he said. You know, that's not the quality that we should be engaged in, because there's a very good reason for it, because it distracts us from actually pursuing service to Krishna, which is devotional service. It distracts us from concentrating on Krishna, because Krishna is in everybody's heart. If Krishna wants you to know about something about somebody else, he will tell you in your heart. He will dictate from within. You don't absolutely have to know everything about what everybody did and what they're doing in order to make the right decision for yourself in a community or in a community situation. That is what gossip is. Did you hear what he said? Because I want to be well informed. Do you know? Because I want to know what they're doing and what they're doing. It's kind of like a fear. Gossip is kind of like a kind of a fear. And it is an enemy of community. It's actually an enemy. Because our only business should be our business to serve Krishna. That is our business. That's what we can do something about. We can increase our relationship with Krishna. We can spend our time developing a love of Krishna. I'll explain a little bit more about that again later on. So here we see in the purport that it's almost like how does this happen? Prabhupada says he is present in his eternal abode Goloka Vrindavan and is still present in everyone's heart and even within the invisible atoms. So how can he be all of these things? But this is who Krishna is, and this is what Krishna Goloka Eva Nivasata Atkala Bhuta. He's always in Vrindavan. Yet the intelligent person can understand these apparent contradictions. You know, there's actually no contradictions. Now the Bhagavad Gita is full of descriptions about Krishna being in the heart of the living entity. Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati, Brahmayam. Oh my God, I'm forgetting these verses now. But he's in everyone's heart, and he's directing the wanderings of all the living entities. I think it's 9:10 in Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, I can have a look at that later. But actually, no, I'll get it now. Sorry, folks. Should have had it already, but not to worry. Maya Jakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacham. It's a similar, it's not actually this one. Hetunanena Kantiya Jagad Viparivars. This material nature, which is one of my is working under my direction of Sunikanji, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created, annihilated again and again. Yeah, okay, that's not exactly what I'm getting at, but the point is that Krishna is in every atom. He's directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material nature. So this is an important aspect of our Krishna consciousness, and there's so many verses, as I said in Bhagavad Gita, about the super soul. I even said one there earlier, that he's seated in everyone's heart, and from him comes memory, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So I won't go into all the different intricacies of that, but I would like to, though, instead explain a little bit from a class that I was listening to recently from His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and how Krishna is the center of everything. He was actually giving it to some of the devotees in Silicon Valley, which we all know, Mountain View. It's the center of all the internet, and all the Google and all these guys, the Microsoft. The whole thing is, a lot of it is started there, and actually, if we look at it, how all of these systems, Facebook, all the different media, it's meant to try to connect us all, the interconnectedness of everything, and it's quite interesting what the material world is trying to devise something akin to Krishna being in everybody's heart, and Krishna being everything is connected through Krishna. So Krishna is in everybody's heart. That's an amazing thing to try to meditate on. Krishna is, and it's the same Krishna who's in my heart, is in your heart, is in everybody else's heart. So this interconnectedness is trying to be emulated on the material plane in this material world. All of these computers, these hard drives, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring everything down into this microchip so that we can all be connected to each other. But despite all of that, when all of that is happening, all of this interconnectedness, yet we find massive disputes which go on on the internet. It's not as if it's bringing us all together in unification. All of these material attempts at that don't seem to work very well. You have the United Nations, just probably say a new flag every year. The United States, if you look at the United States at the moment, there's race riots, there's political riots, there's so many different non-unification in the United States. there is the European Union. Well, if it was a union, we wouldn't have Brexit, would we? So somehow or other, all of these unions, even though we're getting to know each other, hearing each other, still what we're doing, we're fighting with each other instead. So there has to be something behind all of this, because the real wisdom in Bhakti Yoga is that Krishna is the center, and by pouring water on the root of the tree, then all of the branches are fed. So that means that for each one of us, we need to reconnect with Krishna. Religio means to reconnect. And that is why there is so much problems in the world today, because individually people are not reconnecting with Krishna. They're reconnecting with everything except Krishna. It's the weapons of mass distraction. We're constantly being distracted from Krishna. Even as devotees, we're distracted when we're calling on Krishna. The mind is very difficult to control. It is always dwelling on other things. But as devotees, we have to try to remember Krishna through our body, through our mind, and through our words. We have to connect that way with Krishna. We have to be in Krishna's presence through our chanting, and through our reading, and through our association, through serving the devotees, the mahats, devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master. All of these things will help us then connect with each other, because it's the same Krishna that's in your heart, is in your heart, is in your heart, is in my heart. So if I'm connecting with that Krishna, I'm also connecting with you as well. That is the secret, you could say. So if we work on ourselves, we're working on our society simultaneously, and that is the secret of community. Community. The Krishna's the center. Even in the biblical, the first commandment is love God with all thy heart and all thy soul and all thy mind, and love thy neighbour as thyself. The two main commandments. That was the way Christ brought it down into those two commandments. And sometimes I remember earlier on there seemed to be an over push in Krishna consciousness on God, and therefore where was the love thy neighbour as thyself? That was somewhat brought into it at one point, but now you can see, because the devotees are so much trying to focus on their relationship with God, that automatically then they want to develop that relationship with everybody else, and they are capable of doing it then with everybody else. So you can see now at the moment the whole devotee care movement that's going on within Iskcon, how to care for the devotees. So much of the strategic planning that's going on is how to care for devotees, because we cannot be destroyed from without, Prabhupada said, but we can only be destroyed from within. So that means that devotees from within become disgruntled or uncared for or unloved, and therefore they may take it out on the devotees. So, and that's where the community then breaks down. Whereas Prabhupada says your love for me will be shown by how much you can cooperate together to keep this movement going once I'm gone. So we have an obligation in that sense, but it has to be more than just an obligation. Like, the obligation is very important, but it has to develop into a love. So these were some of the points that Radhanath Swami was making in this lecture. If we connect with Krishna in our own heart, then we're connected with everyone, everywhere. That is the principle of community. So if we connect with Krishna in our own heart, we will be connected with everyone everywhere because Krishna is in everyone's heart. And that's the principle of community. So when we take shelter like that, then Krishna reveals to us how he's in everyone's heart as well. It's not that, that verse 5:18, Suni Cheva Svapakacha Padita Samadarshana Vishaya. No, it's 5:18. I don't want to struggle to try to find it again. I should know it off by heart, and I didn't. But anyway, Krishna's in everyone's heart, and Vijay Vinaya Sampade Brahmani Gavi Hastani Sunicheva Svapakachaha Panditaha Samadarshanaha. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So that is the vision that we have to develop. We have to see Krishna everywhere. So Krishna, that is a vision that is given to us by Krishna. So therefore, can we not understand that that's real devotee welfare? By connecting with Krishna in our own heart, Krishna then gives us the vision to see him in everyone else's heart. And therefore we pay obeisances to everyone because we're paying obeisances to Krishna in their heart. So this is the amazing connectivity of the devotees. And the more that we can be conscious of Krishna, or Krishna conscious, or perform bhakti yoga, then the more we will be able to connect with every other living being. Because even in our conversations, we're having some really amazing conversations with devotees recently, and as Krishna's putting things in our hearts to speak. Also, we can see even in the highest level, Lord Chaitanya's conversations with Ramananda Rai. So these type of conversations and this type of connection will happen among the devotees, and this is why the importance of discussion in the Bhagavatam. And it's really amazing that we can continue these Bhagavatam classes, even if it's during the pandemic, that we hear each other speaking about Krishna and about these pastimes, especially in relation to what's been spoken in the Bhagavatam and in relation to what Prabhupada is saying. So we're all focused on one purport and one way of seeing Krishna. Here it's the passing away of Bhishma Dev. Before it was the son of Drona Punish, or after that it was the teachings of Queen Kunti. So we're all focusing on these things. It's very exciting. It's very exciting activity. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one, O beloved child of the Kurus. So we're constantly concentrating on these incredible pastimes together. So Prabhupada wanted this. This is why he instituted the Bhagavatam class. Every temple, the Bhagavatam class is there. So we're a little spread out, but somehow through technology we're able to focus on these things. Also in this class, Maharaj was saying that it's if we become disconnected, from Krishna, and this is true inattention while chanting. That's the biggest of all offences. And you see how the devotees are emphasizing so much concentrated japa, concentrated hearing, because then we're not disconnected from Krishna. When we're disconnected from Krishna, we're careless. We will say things in a careless manner to devotees. We'll inadvertently, even if we don't want to, we'll inadvertently offend devotees or upset devotees, for instance, because we're not conscious of what we're saying. Obviously, we can't always be going around on eggshells. I'm not suggesting that, but we have to be. We have to get into that position whereby we're actually confident that we're trying to serve Krishna. We're doing what Krishna wants. We're doing it in a more of a spontaneous way. We're doing it via knowledge, but when knowledge is put into practice through sadhana, then it becomes more spontaneous. So we're trying to be an association, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So how we are connected, this is how we are connected. We must know that we're all connected through Krishna. And when we experience this, Krishna is in our hearts, and then he reveals to us, he also reveals to us what's in other people's hearts in that way too. So we'll be able to be more effective communicators. We'll be more empathic to each other. Some of the devotees there recently were giving a class, and this is a theme which has been happening a lot lately, how to be empathic to people. One of the devotees was quoting one of the Yogeshwar, he's one of the early devotees from New York, and he was saying that sometimes even by our preaching, if we completely hit people with the philosophy, we can actually do more harm than good. And I was thinking of sometimes the born again Christians sometimes come up to us and say, you must be born again, and that sometimes that is like a hammer blow to me. When I hear that, I get very I have to be careful, because because I feel very much that this type of preaching puts people off religion, and I can get very, I had been getting very negative towards that type of preaching, but I'm told actually don't let yourself get drawn into that. Just say, have a nice day, or Krishna needs more people like you, God needs more people like you, and move on. Don't get stuck in that. But we have to be also very careful, and one way that we do that is that we have to hear what people say before we actually start to prescribe to them what they should do. Not that we're obviously super doctors or spiritual doctors, but we're trying to be that. That's what we're trying to help society. So we should hear very much what people are saying. I'm just saying this now, but in the next minute I might do the opposite. But I'm saying that this is something which I'm aspiring for. Because then when people feel comfortable, then they reveal their mind to us. Then we will know where they're at, and Krishna will give us that, because Krishna is allowing them to reveal what's in their heart. So in the same way then, we will know, Krishna will reveal to us what to say to them. I know in Sankirtan, so many devotees have often said this, that the words just came into their mouth, they said the right thing to the right person at the right time. So that is the way the society can increase and improve, beyond belief, by being very Krishna conscious, so that we can actually say what Krishna wants us to say in any particular given situation. Because Krishna wants every living entity to go back to him. He wants every soul. And I recently read an incredible purport, how Prabhupada is saying this in a very powerful way. It was a particular situation where it was the demigods had been told by Lord Krishna to ask, they had offended their spiritual master. That was the problem. They had offended, Indra had offended Brihaspati, his spiritual master, and he left. And then all the demigods then were completely defeated by the demons, because they had taken shelter of their spiritual master. And they had taken shelter, and therefore they became powerful, and they defeated the demigods. And so the demigods, Lord Indra approached Lord Brahma, what to do, what should I do? And Lord Brahma explained, this is you've actually done wrong. You've offended your spiritual master. So therefore, but if you take shelter of Vishvarupa, then he will give you this Narayan Kavacha shield, this great strength in which you can again approach the demons and defeat them. And so they did that. Lord Indra did that, and they defeated the enemies. But then they had heard that Vishvarupa had some problem, because he was related to the demons as well as the demigods. And when they had heard that he was offering prayers to the demons, then they cut off his head. So what else, my God, to kill the spiritual master? So that was even worse situation, And so then Lord Krishna came and explained to them that if they take shelter of Dadichi, by asking him for his body, and then he will give us this special sword in which to defeat the enemies, who actually is in the form of Vritrasura, who, as we later know, is Chitraketu. Sorry, I'm getting quite quite spread out there, but the point being is that they had to approach this devotee for strength, and they asked him for his body. And first of all, he joked with them and said, "Why would but the body is the most important thing. Why would I just give it to you guys?" But then they pleaded, and they pleaded to his better nature. But then Prabhupada in the purport then makes an incredible point. I have it here actually, about what the goal of the Krishna consciousness movement is. And he says that if one is advanced in knowledge, okay, is everybody listening?
Yes.
Thank you, Shani. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must be always prepared to sacrifice everything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. Isn't that brilliant? That's page 482, 610, 6. Prabhupada's inviting people to sacrifice for this Krishna consciousness movement. He goes on, he talks about Lord Chaitanya and how he's prepared to give up everything. And the 6 Goswamis, who so much opulence, so much wealth, and they gave up everything to become renunciants so that they could meditate on how to help this world, help you and me. Sri Chaitanya manobishtam shtapatam yena bhutale swayam rupakadamayam tadati svapadantikam. Similarly, everyone else with a materially comfortable condition in this world should join the Krishna consciousness movement to elevate the fallen souls. The words Bhatta Davaya Maya Mrigan Dayate Petishatam all convey the same sense. These are very significant words for those interested in elevating human society to a proper understanding of life. One should join the Krishna consciousness movement following the examples of such great personalities as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the 6 Goswamis, and before them the great sage Dadichi. Instead of wasting one's life for temporary bodily comforts, one should always be prepared to give up one's life for better causes. After all, the body will be destroyed. Therefore, one should sacrifice it for the glory of distributing religious principles throughout the world. Isn't that amazing? That's the next verse, 8. So there's great words of encouragement from Prabhupada for us to take shelter of Krishna and perform devotional service to Krishna, because that's the mood that we have to get in. We got to get, sorry, I'm speaking to myself here, to stop thinking of things for oneself and think of how to be situated as a servant of Krishna, so that your every thought, action, deed is as service to Krishna. That is the new consciousness. If we can develop that new consciousness, that's the actual original consciousness. That's the point, actually. That's the original consciousness of the living entity. Sometimes, like as different stages of life, we may approach that differently. Let's face that. You know, as a householder, you have to get your own stuff together and make sure you have a proper situation set up so that your family can take shelter in Krishna consciousness. Different situations. So as you go on to Balapras, then you start to perform more austerity, more start to thinking more about how you can actually spread Krishna consciousness in that particular way. But there, householders, grihastas, brahmacharis, brahmacharis, my God, to take up completely the goal of spreading Krishna consciousness. Fantastic, just the householders and brahmacharis should work in unison. They should be the best of friends, helping each other spread Krishna consciousness. This is the mood that we have to develop, not that, oh, you're like this, and they're like this, and you're like this, and you're like this. Oh my God, it's so neophyte. I mean, I suffer from it myself. But we have to kick it out, kick it out. It's a disaster, We have to work together in this situation. We're just at different stages of life, but we're all part of the Krishna consciousness movement, and we're all connected to Krishna in this situation. I came across this really interesting purport by Prabhupada. It's about knowing what action is and what inaction is and what forbidden action is. One who sees action in inaction and inaction in inaction is intelligent among men, because we have to know how to act in this world. But then there's this abandoning all attachment. This is 420. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent. Very interesting. Real independence. He performs no fruit of action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. I love that, because in Krishna consciousness we have to be doing so many activities to please Krishna, or to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. Like on Innisratha at the moment, we're trying to sort out the electric. I mean, I went down with a devotee down to the electrical the electrical station. I always I actually post beautiful pictures of Govindadweep and in the sun. They're like some amazing ones the other day, but I didn't post the other ones of I went down to the electrical shed. I should be careful about this actually, just in case, but it needs work, shall we say. Like there was a tree growing out of the electrical shed, and but these are things that we have to do. We have to actually so many activities. We have to get everything up to the right standard so that we can invite people, and they can just like Tim Prabhu has done. He's a very nice situation where he invites people, then he brings them over to the island, and then they meet the devotees, and there's discussion in Krishna consciousness. Fantastic, great service, and they get to know, they get to associate with devotees. So I'm saying there's so many activities we can perform. So this is what he says. He performs no fruit of action, although engaged in all kinds of activities. That's someone in Krishna consciousness, because they're acting only for Krishna. See, so that's the joy of this kind of activity. This freedom from the bondage of action, Prabhupada says in the purport, is possible only in Krishna consciousness, when one is doing everything for Krishna. A Krishna conscious person acts out of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he has no attraction for the results of action. So listen, there's no attraction for the results. Now, the next thing Prabhupada says, he is not even attached to his personal maintenance, for everything is left to Krishna. Nor is he anxious to secure things, nor to protect things already in his possession. He does his duty to the best of his ability and leaves everything to Krishna. Such an unattached person is always free from the resultant reactions of good and bad. It is as though he were not doing anything. This is the sign of akarma, or action without fruit of reactions. Any other action, therefore, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is binding upon the worker. So I'm saying as devotees we should also be this. We shouldn't, although as householders we have to make provision for the future, but come on, Krishna's in control. I mean, there's only so much. We can do our duty to the best of our ability, and okay, we do it within a certain parameter, but believe it. Don't get stuck into thinking, oh, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this. Krishna's looking after us, we should do our duty, but don't get stuck. Otherwise we become fruitive actors again. We're trying to organize everything for ourselves for the future, but we can't do it anyway. Krishna will just take away our future, just to let us know that we're not in control. So devotees should be very careful about this. I know, especially going into household life, you know, sometimes you find that forget about Krishna altogether. I'm just so busy getting the household together. Now, as a society, we should have the provision set up so that people don't have to get into it. Because sometimes, you know, devotees feel very bereft if they've given it their brahmachari days or something, and then suddenly to become a household life, what do I do? What do I do? And we've nothing set up as a society for people like that. So that is where we need to work, all right, and work intelligently. And, you know, Vanaprastha, older people, they should be working to set up a society for Krishna consciousness so that people in the various ashrams can actually function properly in those ashrams, and not that they have to think everything is down to them. You know, that is selfless activity in the Krishna consciousness movement. So that is what is needed, and that's why you find that all the talks at the moment are all about devotee care. So many of these talks, and that care has to be the principal element. So therefore, we saw this point that the Prabhupada was making there about the Dichi and how we should sacrifice for higher causes. And from this class from Radhanath Swami, he made this point that because I always like this Prabhupada when he brings it down to the Krishna consciousness movement means, and he says this in so many different sections, but in this one, Prabhupada, Radhanath Swami says it's condensed down to the Krishna consciousness movements means that we have to feel the sufferings of others and care for them. So we have to feel, it's an actual experiential thing. We have to feel the sufferings of others. Empathy, yes, exactly. So as it was Kanisha was making the point, was the Yogeshwar from this class he was given. He was saying that sometimes we actually don't feel, we give them heavy philosophy, and we don't actually find out where they're at first of all. So this we have to, and so people think we don't care. They actually think we're just so cold-hearted. We don't care. And I remember one time when our English football manager was bringing up the point about karma one time, and suddenly he was slaughtered from every direction because they felt, oh, this karma, this law is just going down. What about a poor person? Do you mean that this is just their karma? You know, and he was absolutely destroyed. And the person himself was actually quite empathic. His daughter wrote a thing about him saying he's always caring about every other people. He does so much welfare work, but it was very, very good from her, but it wasn't accepted, and the person had to resign. So we have to be very conscious and very clever in how we're presenting the Krishna consciousness. Not just clever we have to really understand Krishna in our heart, and so therefore we have to be very empathic, as Ashani was saying. We have to be very empathic to other people, so that we actually can give Krishna consciousness to others. So this is what he condensed this down. So to be conscious of Krishna is the goal of life. This is our true situation. This is our true situation. We are. This is our real nature. We're servants of Krishna, and that's who we are in the spiritual dimension. So we have to unleash that. Just finally, this. We have forgotten who we are. We have forgotten that God is everywhere and in every person. This is the root cause of all disconnection. Bhakti means to restore the connection between the soul and the super soul. That's what bhakti means. And then when we restore that connection between the soul and the super soul, then we can connect with all living beings. As many Jivatmas are there is the same Paramatma. It's the same Paramatma. And so in the night we cannot see that. We cannot, it's like we're in the darkness. When we're disconnected from the super soul, we're not able to see that. But when the sun rises, you know, we have this verse from Bhagavad Gita when the sun rises, then it when one is given the knowledge by which darkness is destroyed, ignorance is destroyed, then the sun lights up everything. Then this knowledge lights up everything, just like the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So if we can regain our connection with the super soul, then we can reconnect with Krishna everywhere. So, just to conclude, the Bhishma is there, and Prabhupada is explaining that the same external, the same super soul who's in Bhishma's heart is coming there before him in person. Krishna is the super soul in everyone's heart. Is there in person for Bhishma Dev, and this is this is the incredible conversation which is going to take place now between Bhishma and Yudhishthir, and where Dharma prevails. So I'll stop there, and I know it's difficult to get these questions in, but there's no questions. So I'll stop there. Thank you for listening, and may you have a wonderful Krishna conscious day, and may everybody, all of us, reconnect with the Super Soul. Hare Krishna. So, can you turn off now?